Welcome to Model Engineers Laser. My name is Holly and this is part 11 of our jack build. In our last video we fitted the eccentric rods and today we're going to start by fitting the radius rods. So I'm just going to bring into shot the instructions here. Just a bit of a layout issue that may complicate things if you're really new and don't know the difference between your rods. It has the image of the eccentric rod which we fitted last video next to the chapter about the radius rods, which can get a little bit confusing. So hopefully these videos will help you in overcoming that. The first part of the instructions is regarding the crank pins for your radius rod. So you need one of your shorter crank pins here, and you need your radius rod. So this one's your radius rod. It's the one that is bent. I'm going to take the logo out because it'll help with the focusing of the camera. So this is our radius rod, and we've got our crank pin. Now the first part of the instructions is about shortening these crank pins because they do extend proud of the radius rod. So to do that, the holes in here are tapped, and I'll show you that if you put them in there you can see that they stick proud, and the first job we need to do is to file off this proud section here because it's going to get in the way of our build later on. So just a bit of a different camera angle here for you now, so you can see what I'm going to do. There's a pair, so we need to do both of these for both sides of the engine. Now when you put your crank pin in, you need to make sure you're putting it in this way around, so it's going in from the lower end, so the protruding end that we're going to file off sticks out in line with this. And then I've just got a little desk vise here where I have, oh, wait for the camera to focus back again, there we go, where we have put the crank pin in the vise standing proud with the rod sticking out tight. So as that gets tight on there, it sits flush on there, so we know that that is perfectly where it needs to be, and it is just a matter of taking off the top with a file. Now obviously didn't have that tight enough in the vise because it's had a bit of a wiggle, so I'm just going to, that's why it's important to keep checking on it, because you need to make sure that you don't cause any damage because we don't really have any spares. You can order them if you do mess it up, it's not the end of the world. I don't want to be ordering them if I don't have to. You can see it's coming down quite nicely. Yes, darling. You want to help? You can help. Right, okay. There you go. So you hold the file with this hand. Yeah, on the top. You got it? Okay, nice big strokes. Good help, you let me check. Wow, good job. You finished? No. Good job. For those of you who don't know, that's the apprentice Erica. She probably should be better known as the boss. Before anybody complains, if I do anything that's going to hurt her, she's never around at those stages. going to change to a smaller, finer file. We're near the end. And that is that one done. So we just need to repeat the process now for the other side. Now I've filed those crank pins off the rods. You may have remembered in a previous video, for those that are following us through, the union link and combination lever we tacked up here out the way to stop it getting damaged in between different videos and different actions and putting it down, and kids and dogs and all sorts of things. I've lost that now, I'll find it in a second. Now's a good time just to undo that, because we're going to fit the radius rod into there shortly. There we go. I'm going to put that down there later for safekeeping, and we're just going to let that hang down there. Now, in a larger scale engine, this expansion link would be made out of gauge plate and would also have a die block that would be made out of gauge plate as well, something that you would have water jet cut. It's quite an expensive process, needs must, and it's not really necessary for this scale of engine. So these aren't, but just for those of you who are learning as you go. The crank pin that we've just filed is acting as our die block that sits in there. So we're going to put a washer on first, having removed it from the radius rod. See up there. Then that fits through our expansion link. Now we're going to put that back onto our radius rod. Now if you can see which way round I've got that radius rod. So the end that is attached to the expansion link is the part that is furthest away from the frame. Now, I'm not going to lie, this might be a horrendous video in length, because having filed that off there, the thread off there, you've taken off any lead on the, oh, it didn't take too bad actually. You've taken off any lead you had on the thread, so it can make it quite potentially difficult to screw that radius rod onto there. So that sits on there quite nicely. I thought that was going to be a lot more traumatic than it actually was. So now we're going to attach the radius rod to our valve fort rod. So that needs to fit through there, which does do quite nicely, but you're just going to have to take care to make sure you can get it to line up with the holes that are in there. And now we need the long screw to go back through there, and then that bit is tapped in there, so that should screw through. Need to make sure everything lines up. Really exciting video of me trying to find the hole through there. So it's starting to peek out the other side now, which is great, which means I can put the locking nut on the back. Just grab the screwdriver. It doesn't have to be too tight in here, because that is the locking nut. It does need to be fitted so that everything can move around. And now it's time to do the other side. So I've fitted both sides now. I must admit, it is a lot easier to do when I'm not trying to make sure I've got it on camera and getting my head in shot. So If you make sure that your radius rods are towards the bottom of your expansion links and give your wheels a turn, you should see the cylinder blocks moving. Just a little bit of excitement to keep you happy, keep me happy as well. The next part of the instructions are about fitting and adapting the lifting arms and reversing arms. Now, there's a lot of detail about this in the jack instructions, not the Roundhouse instructions, because they require a lot of modification. That's going to be an entire video on its own because of the amount of work that's involved, and I don't want this video to be too long. So our next video will be how to adapt these and fit in these, because it is going to be a lot of work. So instead, we're going to do something else for the end of this video, and we're just going to fit our reversing lever. So I've just brought the instructions into shot. I'm just going to move it over ever so slightly because it's really helpful in what we're doing regarding the build. But it's really self-explanatory if you follow the instructions. So starting with your main part of the body the right way around and your reversing arm lever, making sure you've got the handle the right direction. So we're going to get our long crank pin, which was paired with the spring appropriately. And we're just going to thread that through there. It's a bit of a snug fit. And then I'm going to push that through both of these. Now this is tapped in there, so the thread from the crank should just bite it. I'm going to push that in there, give me a better grip, because as you've seen, my joints do bend somewhat wonky, making grip quite difficult. It's not working. Just line it all up. The spring's really tight. I suppose it has to be. You see when I apply the pressure, my joints bend the wrong way, so my grip is ridiculously weak. Oh, there we go. It's caught it. As you tighten that up, you'll get to a point where it won't tighten anymore. It does stick proud a little bit out the back. You should be able to move that quite freely. It goes back and forward. So now we're going to fit the push rod connector. And again, these are all paired up in the bags appropriately. So we're going to put the screw through the back. Doesn't go all the way in, you do have a little bit of a gap there. And then making sure you're going in through the right direction, that's going to push through that hole there. This will spin quite nicely, so don't worry about getting the holes in the right place. And then you want your star lock washer. Now there is a right way around to put these star lock washers. If you can see, if you can actually, they have the sort of concave, is that the right word? So they're smooth on one side and they're curved in through that side. That's the side that's going to fit against what we're working through. So the hollowed out section goes against the pin. Not gonna lie, I just got Ed to help me push that onto there. I'm hypermobile, so when I put any pressure on my fingers, all my joints bend back the wrong way, so I don't get any pressure or strength. So I've just got him to push that on there for me. The next stage, just kick the table, is we're going to attach these 3 screws with these 3 bolts. So in the kit along with this, there's M3 and M2. So this section here is with the M2s that we're working with now, the smaller ones. And we're going to push that through the centre hole, she says. There, and that fits nicely. Just in there is a little break. It's one. Need to put another one on this side. I'm just doing the finger tight for now. I'll tighten them up later. And then finally on the other side. And again, so that's all 3. Just at this stage, what's worth checking is to make sure that this isn't too tight, because if this is too tight, you won't be able to actually use the lever. You want to be able to bend it away to actually sit and come off those. So if it can't come off that, this is too tight and will need loosening up. So that's where we're just going to leave it to sit for now. The next part is to attach it to our frames. So I've brought the frame back into shot, and you get to see the different side of it this time, because I'm usually demonstrating on the other side to make it match with the drawings, and then doing this side out of shot later so you don't see the same thing twice. I'm just going to show you both sides of the top of the foot plate. Now, I've just taken a drill bit to these holes here because they would have been full of paint. You can see the mess on the bottom because we're going to be putting M3 screws through here. You will see that there is none on the fireman's side. You can't really get this wrong. These are the only place that you can go. It's the only holes that aren't symmetrical for the set, so you shouldn't be able to get them on the wrong side. Turn it again. So now we're going to fit the lever. So we've been looking at it through the drawing side, and the way to remember how this goes on is that the handle, the bit you would squeeze on the handle, faces towards the front of the engine. So it's going to go this way round. So all the nuts in your starlock washer are going to be facing the edge of the foot plate here, and all these bits with the spring are going to be facing towards the inside of the foot plate. So it's going to attach on this way around with the curve outside of the curve here. And then we're going to get the M3 screws that come with the set, drop them on the floor, and they are going to go through the base there. Now the holes in the bottom are tapped, so it should just bite enough with a hand turn for you to get a screwdriver in the bottom. Hand tight, and then I'll roll my frame over a little bit. And I'll do the same on the other side there. There we go. Just going to rotate the frame a little bit so I can access those screws far more easily. Maybe leaning a little too hard there. Didn't put the brake on hard enough. There we go, and then the same for the other one. And there we have it. And that is all attached. Just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. Oh, that was in, sorry. And see what it looks like all together. Making progress. And we'll call it that for this video, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all of our amazing subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please click on the link to do so below. It just helps with our ratings and people get to see us a bit more, and hopefully more people will be building engines. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.